Miss Collier explains
The conclusion and evaluation of the Year 6 experimental report.
Hello. All right, so we have 4 questions left. Question 15, 16, 17, and 18. What I need is for everyone to be on task because I don't want the video to be long, and the people who watch it at home or at school on Monday don't want to sit through hours of me telling you to stop talking. Yeah? Let's look at these. Question 15. It says, actually, can you read it? Question 15.
Discuss your aim and hypothesis. Do your results support? Agree with your hypothesis. How does the independent variable you choose affect the growth of your wheat?
Awesome. So in a scientific experiment, the first part of what we call your evaluation, which is when you look at your experiment and you think, what have I learnt? The first part of your evaluation is for you to discuss where you write. Sorry, that means you're going to scroll back up. You're going to scroll up to your hypothesis where you said whether or not you thought salt water would help it grow or if it would stop it growing. And you say if you are right. Thomas, stop. Now, what we don't do is write a sentence that says, I was right. That means nothing to anyone. You're going to say something like, the results of the experiment supported the hypothesis or did not support the hypothesis. Does that make sense? Move. So we haven't said the word I because we're not saying the word I. Yes?
You're not allowed to say like me and I.
No, not yet. There's only one part where we can, and this is not it. So we're going to say the results of the experiment supported or agreed with the hypothesis or didn't agree with the hypothesis. Okay? You should mention what your hypothesis was again. So you should say, you could even write, the hypothesis stated that plants would grow more with salty water. All right? This hypothesis was not supported by the results of the experiment. Are making sense so far? Yeah. Questions? Cool. The next part you have to do there is it says, how does the independent variable affect the growth of wheat? Okay, this is basically what have you learned? What is the scientific fact that you now think you know? Stop touching things. What's the scientific fact you know? Now tell me, in our experiment, what is the independent variable?
Time. Salt.
The amount of salt. Remember, the independent variable is the things we've chosen to change. We've chosen to change the amount of salt. So you are saying, the question is, how does the independent variable, how does salt affect the growth of wheat? So you need to write a statement. This experiment has shown that salt water does what to plants?
Kills them.
Yes, but that's probably very vague. That's something like, does it... Stop. You can say...
Dries the water. Or slows
Great.
down.
Right. We can talk about drying water. We can talk about slows the growth. You can talk about the fact that the more salt the plant receives, the less it grows. Because is that what we have discovered?
Yeah.
Yes. So the more salt you add, the slower it goes, or the less it grows. What is the statement of scientific fact that you think you have discovered? Are we understanding so far?
Yeah.
Question 15. Was your hypothesis supported? What is the scientific fact you think you've learnt? We good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Question 16. Amber, can you read question 16?
Discussion of results. What did they prove? How are they different to other people in your class who chose the same independent variables? Why might there be different results?
Great. So now we're discussing our results. So we're going up to our results table and especially our graph. We're looking at our graph and we're going, interesting. Tell me anything you find interesting, anything you notice. What does it prove? It should be proving that statement that you've just made. Okay? The graph shows that the more salt there is, the less it grows. Okay? This is where you also bring up the fact that in your graph you did not include salt water that was 3.5. Yeah? So this is where you mentioned that you didn't put the 3.5 in your graph but that's because it had such low growth it wouldn't have shown on the graph, or whatever you want to write. Make sense? Yeah? So what did you prove? So this is proving your statement that you've just made. Next, how is it different from other people in your class? So this is the part where you're going to go up to someone else. Now, everyone in the class did salt water, so you should be able to speak to at least 6, 7 other groups and write it down. I would get a piece of paper, or you could ask them to send you some screenshots. So can you screenshot your graph and send it to me? And don't write, well, okay, if you write, my graph had similar results as the other people in my class, you might get a C, maybe. If we're wanting to do well, what we're going to do is we're going to notice things that are the same and things that are different. Okay, so you're going to say all the other groups had the same supporting statement, but some groups actually their 3.5 did grow, whereas ours didn't grow. Some groups their 1.5 actually grew way more than ours did. Okay, you're noticing things that are similar and things that are different. Make sense? Cool. If you're in a group and yours is different from everyone, because there's been some different graphs, I've seen them. There's some people whose 0.5 actually grew taller than their non-salt water at some parts. So if you have that, then you're going to note that. You're going to say, my group 0.5 actually grew taller. No other group had that, if that's true. Yeah? You're going to write that down. And then it says why. So if you notice that some other group had something different, chat to them. What do you think? They might be like, I think that after 7 days, we actually put our container back in wrong, and we put the no water into the 0.5 water. And so then when we measured it, the no salt in the water actually was now in the 0.5, and we measured it at 0.5, but it actually started out as no salt. So they might have identified a mistake, and that's why a result is different. Or you might say something to someone whose plants weren't growing very well, and they say, oh dude, we drowned all our plants. Like none of our plants were growing well because they were drowning. So why are the results different? Cool? We good? Is it still recording? Okay, that's question 16. Question 17, evaluation. This is 17 and 18 is when you're allowed to say I or we. Okay, only time. Do you believe your results are accurate and reliable? Did you control the variables well? So you've already spoken about how you tried to control variables, but this is where you evaluate. How good did we do? Did you measure the same way every time? Did you measure length every time? Or now some of our, look, we've gotten too tall and all of our plants have just fallen. So now you're like, oh, maybe I should have measured length, not height. All right. Did you do it well? Did you measure the same way? Did you measure on the right day? So were you accurate? Were you reliable? And did you control the variables well? Give yourself a self-assessment. I'll ask you again. If you say we didn't do it well, can you get an A?
Yes.
Yes. The assignment is not about controlling the variables well. The assignment is about writing a good report. And if you write in your report that you didn't control them well, that is fine because it's good reflection.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, exactly. And that's what we want in science. We want truth. Good job, Amber. All right, so that's question 17. Everyone make sense? Self-assessment. How did our group go? Last question, question 18. Improvements. Sam, can you read question 18?
What would you do differently if you could complete the experiment again? How might the conditions inside the classroom affect the growth of your week?
Great. Number one, what would you do differently? So this could be we needed to give it less water, or we needed to spread our water out more evenly. This could have been that you wanted to try something more saltier. You wanted to try a 5% salt, see what that did. Maybe you could try it with a different type of plant. Maybe you wanted, I don't know, lots of different options. So first of all, there's two types of improvements. Number 1 is another idea. So saying 5% salt, that's another idea. Stop. Saying we should have used less water, that's a reflection of that your exact experiment, how you could have done it better. You should be doing both. You listening? Both. Number 1, how could you do this exact experiment better? But also, what's another idea that you could build the experiment to make the experiment bigger and better? Stop. And lastly, how could the classroom affect the results? Do you think that anything in the classroom affected the way that they grew? Okay. Last year, the plants, they were dry all the time. They never got enough water. This year, they're always drowning. How do you think that maybe the classroom environment affected your plants? Anyone have any questions? Are we all good for the last 4 questions?
Yeah.
Let me explain what is happening for our last 3 science lessons before our assignment is due. Ready? Today, it's Friday, okay? You're working on those 4 questions. Monday, you're also going to work on the 4 questions, but Miss Collier hopes that over the weekend, if she gets bored in her 5-star hotel in Melbourne, probably unlikely, we'll post some comments on your milestone that you need to fix. So that's what you'll work on Monday. On Monday, you have to hand in a milestone onto Learning at Redlands. There's a separate video, or PowerPoint, to tell you how to do that. Next Friday, last lesson. We're working through it, and we will finish all of the assignment till it's done. And then the following Monday, we hand it in. Make sense? Everyone good? Questions? If we're away, do we still have to work on it at home?
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah? We've got a video you can watch. Bye. The following scenes are a reenactment. Should any of the 4 questions be a small little sentence?
No. Chunky.
They should all be a chunky paragraph.
Like those Kit Kats.
There should be a chunky, fat cat, Kit Kat sized paragraph for each, yes, that's exactly right, for each of the 4 questions. Cool?